Hi guys, welcome to Bubba Rocks Media. This is the Rising Band series, and I'm so excited to have a band here that I have recently discovered and think are freaking awesome. They're from Finland, and they have close to 1 million streams, I believe, across Spotify and YouTube. And they have played the legendary Helden Festival. Very jealous. I would love to go to that. And let me just say, we have Tim here from the Vantages. Yay!
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And I have to give you a wee quick backstory as to how I even came across the band. And it was basically my son. I am kind of stuck in the late 90s, early 2000s music era. That's where I rarely venture out of. And I goes to I goes, dude, is there any like decent bands out there now that you think I would like? And you were the first band that he mentioned. So I gave it a wee listen. And I went, oh damn, yay. I finally got excited about something that's not from the 90s.
Yeah.
2000. So that's thank you for making great songs.
Thank you.
I know. So I'm fangirling right now, and all thanks to my son. But look, so let's go back to the origins. I love a good origin story for a band. Yeah. And I always find, just with the universe, how it manages to get people to come together to then create this incredible sound or music or band or whatever. So if you want to just start with, your origins first, how the band was formed, and we'll go from there.
It was basically me and Anton. We used to go to the same school together. And I was sort of a bit antisocial in a way. And I was having lunch by myself, and this, like, I'd like seen Anton before, but we haven't really met or like talked. But I was having lunch by myself, and then suddenly Anton, he just comes across me, like the table, and he bangs his tray down, and he's like, I've got this great idea for a pyramid scheme. Do you want to get in on it? And we've never even said hi before. And I just looked at him for a while and just went, yeah, I'm in. Like, what's the plan? And neither of us remember what the thing was. It was basically a joke. But we joke about the fact that, okay, well, the Vantages then became like the pyramid scheme.
Yeah, nice. So there wasn't actually a pyramid scheme for the band. That's really cool, actually. How did you create the name The Vantages? Because it's given me 1960s. I love it. But how did that come about? Just the name of it, it's unusual.
We had a long list of names that were like worse from each other. It was like a really long, grueling list of very bad names. And in the start, I was like very adamant about the fact that I don't want it to be the plurals by like no account, never, because that's like something, because we're doing the indie thing, we can't be those guys who do that again. You have the Strokes, you have this and that, and whatever. And in the end, I was the one that came up with the name. And so I think we like cross-checked. I don't think I'm even lying if I say like 100 names, and The Vantages was the only name. It was supposed to be called something else that was a bit similar, but it was like this Canadian like cannabis company or something like that.
All right.
And we actually emailed them and asked if it's okay to use that name, and they kindly responded no. But wished us well on our endeavors, and was like, oh, fuck you then. I'm just gonna put an accent on it. But then I thought of The Vantages, and then we just went with that, because we checked it online, and nobody had ever in the history of mankind, I hope, done music with that name before. And it was just like, there wasn't anything like interesting coming up online from that name. So they were like, okay, so it's a name, it's not a bad one, it's a pretty good one, we like it, and nobody's ever used it before, so let's just fucking go with that, because like I was pulling my hair out by that point.
Well, the fates have worked, because it's a cool name. As well as that, like I listened to the EP. I know it was released in 2023, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, I gave it a wee listen, and like just every single song was just really good. I was like, wow, yay. And one of them that stands out the most to me is Alone. I love it.
Oh yeah.
love it. Like I would play that on repeat a lot. It's when I get into a song, I get obsessed, and that's just how I go. But first of all, I just want, yeah, do you? Yeah, I have to just, it's like a dopamine thing, I think. And it doesn't matter the genre or anything like that with me. It's just if a song like tickles that wee dopamine in the brain, then that's it. Yeah. And I'll just play it nonstop.
Yeah, and you sometimes get like those kind of songs that just sort of, you know, they make you feel the way that you're feeling, like all of the time. You sort of feel understood by something, and you just have to play it on repeat. And then you like eventually get tired of it, and then you get another song, like you hyperfixate on it. Yeah, I do.
I do it all the time. And you know, like the song itself, I have a fair idea what it's about, but I always like to hear from the horse's mouth, basically, what that song that I'm so obsessed about is about from your perspective.
Well, the whole EP is basically like just, you know, little excerpts from my diary in a way. Well, I don't have a diary in a way like, okay, today I had eggs for breakfast, but I've got a diary that I just write little sort of like poetry on, I think.
Oh, cool.
There's like non-rhyming poetry, and I'm really bad at keeping a diary, but I have a few of these like black books that I call them lying around. And when I was writing the songs for the EP, I was just basically going over the period of my life with a lot of bad relationships, and it was a string of them, and I was just trying to make sense of that, and I was still kind of going through it, although it had been a while. And I think Alone was the song that was more about learning to sort of say no and walking away from something. But there was still that sort of guilt of like, you felt like you did something wrong, even though you kind of didn't. That's the way that I hear it now. It's a funny thing. The EP is sort of, we realized it with the co-producer Patrick, like by the end, because the track list wasn't like really that planned. It was just, you know, we had a mid-tempo song and a fast one and a ballad, and we ended with something else. And I was just kind of thinking of like the lyrics and sort of the message and the songs. I was like, okay, that made a lot of sense, because Leather Jacket is mostly about like falling in love with someone, or something like what love felt like when he was 16. Listening to the Sex Pistols, and, you know, having sneaking cigarettes and beers in the park. And then you had Danger, which is more of a, you know, you sort of like, you can see the spiraling down, and You is sort of like a come to Jesus moment, whatever you want to call it. And then Alone is sort of like a goodbye to all of that. So, like, it's hard to explain, but to me, I could see the moments in life that they sort of all happened. And I didn't really plan it. I just figured it out like very much after the fact.
So that's really cool as well, because I think why people connect, and even, you know, me, like I was able to just connect to that one straight away. It's the honesty in the lyrics as well, and the vulnerability. I've always found that kind of like lyrics like almost therapeutic. From a fan perspective, it's super therapeutic. And like also the way that you sing it as well. I've always been a fan of the type of singing that kind of slides, you know, up and into the falsettos and down. I love that style of singing. It's like Radiohead do it, and Long Pegs and him, just all these bands that do that kind of singing. It's a dopamine thing for me again. And that's why I absolutely love it, and how I connect. But when you're actually like writing the songs themselves, and you have to be that level of vulnerable to open up, to expose that side, is it like a therapeutic thing for yourself as well, knowing that it's going to actually go to a fan, that somebody you don't even know, that it's going to heal, it's going to help somebody? And so from that perspective, do you find it like emotionally draining, or do you find it healing in a way?
Well, when I was writing them and when we recorded them, I wasn't actually even, I was wasn't sort of like aware of the fact that you know, someone else is going to listen to them or even like emotionally connect with them. It felt like an absurd thing in a way. So I just had like no expectations. But like songs like You, when it sounds like I'm kind of crying at the end, I actually am crying, because I remember they were just demos that we did the vocals on. We did the pre-production demos. We polished them quite a bit, and then I think all of the vocal takes came from the demos, like from the actual EP, and a bunch of those from guitars and synths and stuff like that. And I remember I was a bit sick. I had just been a bit sick, and we were at our like studio. I think our bass player Alexi was I think he was recording me, and I just remember like trying to get it over with. And I was, you know, I had a tough day and whatever. I was just drinking some hot water and singing it, and I just bawled a lot. And like during the takes and between the takes. And there was something that I wanted to keep in there, because it felt right. And you know, it was in tune as well, so why not? And but you know, it was draining, sort of going back to that, and at the same time it was also like a bit like you get this catharsis from the fact that, okay, I've gotten it out. But then, you know, like a year after releasing those songs and everything, I've had people come up to me in like bars or at like different concerts or, you know, places. And, you know, I remember that there was this one person when we were out and about with the guys, and I was having a cigarette outside, and there was this one person who came up to me, and they started with like, apology, I'm so sorry that you know, I'm coming up to you like this. I'm like, no, it's okay, what's going on? And they were like, okay, so I heard this song, and I was like, they were doing something. They told this whole story, and it was so, I don't want to get into that. It was very personal for them, but it was so cool and touching to hear that. And that was sort of a moment that when it clicked to me that the things are becoming more than just my emotions and my experiences, and they're starting to take a, you know, a totally own life of their own. And I was like, fuck me. You know, and that's really cool. And it's one of those things, like, you know, like a philosophical like debate. It's like, I don't know which is worse, that everybody gets how you're feeling, or that nobody gets how you're feeling, because I wouldn't wish that upon anyone else. Or, you know.
That's really cool. That's really cool. But that's what I love about music as well. I've been using music for decades for healing, because that's what it does. And that's why I find like musicians, or in particular songwriters, are just wizards, like with what you can do to create something to make somebody feel so much more better. And actually moving into your like kind of sound as well, to me it's different, it's unique to what is out or what has been out. And obviously I can hear the elements of the indie music, the indie rock within it, and then all the darker, more melancholic, which I love. When I was doing my research on you guys, I obviously came across the comparisons to him. So we need to address this first, because I want to disagree wholeheartly with it. So I am actually, now, in fairness, I'm a huge fan of him, have been for decades. And obviously what a comparison, you know, to compliment to be compared to them. But I think it's a lazy comparison because you guys don't really sound like them. I think you're more, from my memory anyway, of my days back in the 90s, there was a huge wave here in the UK of indie music, indie rock, things like that. And it definitely has more of a vibe of that. I can hear 1960s music. I can hear a whole mix of that kind of thing. I grew up, you know, my dad, he was, you know, the Beatles, Stones, things like that, Searchers. So I can hear all those wee elements. And then you've combined the Gothic a horror kind of melancholic feel and mood within it. So to me, that is its own genre in itself. Like you've literally created your own genre. And I think that's really cool. And what fascinates me as well is from your perspective, how do you explain your genre, what you've created, and also who are you a fan of or fans of that have helped to shape and create this new wave, new sound?
I mean, like the hymn comparisons, it's like it used to be super jarring, but when we sort of get accustomed to it after a while, it's not the worst. Like you said, it's definitely not the worst thing to be compared of. I mean, he's a very talented and a very nice person. We played Held On, we've met, and we've known before and talked a bunch. So he's a very, very, very nice guy, and he's made some great music as well.
Yeah.
And but that being said, it's like I'm a fan of the Arctic Monkeys, basically.
Oh, cool.
It was like one of the biggest influences, and then I like a lot of guitar bands from the 60s, the Shadows and the Ventures and stuff like that, and that sort of thing. I just got I love Sauce Gainsbourg as well. I got a pack of Gitans as a souvenir. Unsmokable. I don't recommend smoking for anyone.
No,
but that's horrible.
I used to smoke.
Oh yeah, I'm working on that. Getting to the used part. But anyway, yeah. There was a lot of things I've liked. A lot of like the 60s and 70s things. We used like baritone guitars and a lot of vintagey amps or amp emulations and spring reverbs and stuff like that. And we wanted to go like all like spaghetti western on some things. And when we were sort of like making the songs, I was doing the production, and I was like, it would be cool if we have like these surf guitars and then sort of blend them with something that doesn't really. So we didn't just want to be like, we didn't want to be any of our influences basically in like just one sense. So we just took a lot of things, little things from a lot of places and mashed it up together and hope for the best.
Well, it worked.
Thank you.
The other thing that I also find fascinating is people who are bilingual, because I am not. I can barely speak English. So like obviously being Irish, we talk real fast, and over here we do have to learn Irish when we're younger, and I sucked. It was really bad, dude. So like I find, when you're, I know you're singing and writing in English.
Yeah.
And I read, and I don't know if this is true, maybe you can clear this one up, but with English and Finnish, there is a bit of a difference in how you use some of the words. So for example, the word love over here, like we'll use it so loosely. I love ice cream,
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas in Finnish, apparently, and I don't, is this true? Do you guys like, you're a bit more withholding with that type of word? And then also, do you find it then easier to write the lyrics in English and sing in English as opposed to doing it in Finnish?
Yeah, that's the last part is a really, really good one. There's definitely this sort of like a distance that you can take. And sometimes when I'm like, if I'm having a difficult time and I'm writing down, something like what's going on in my head, I usually do it in English because it's easier, because it doesn't like for the first part, it doesn't like feel that sort of like serious for whatever reason.
Yeah,
and it's easier to get out because there's this sort of like a buffer in between.
Yeah,
and but yeah, like the love thing, it's I think it's very true. It's not like this, like in like the way that in like, for example, in Japan, there's like there's a few words for love, and then there's this one that you say like on your deathbed. It's it's nothing like that, but it has more of a weight to it, I think.
Yeah.
As opposed to the whole thing of like, oh, I love ice cream or something like that. If you would say that like exactly the same way in Finnish. People would be like, people wouldn't look at you like you're weird, but they would be like, it's not something you just say that you really, really like something.
Oh,
But if you really, 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 really like something, then you say that you love it. But it's
see, that stuff fascinates me. And like, we're actually heading to Helsinki next summer for a holiday.
not cool.
And we're actually going to hope to get a show in, a festival or whatever. And actually, if you can recommend a few bars after we've done the interview, that you for live bands, that would be really, really appreciated. So yeah, but I'm actually going to try, all three of us, we're going to try to learn a little bit of Finnish.
Yeah.
But I don't know how I'm going to do it.
No,
But
it's just
it'll be fun. It'll be interesting, it's a hard language.
It is, and the pronunciation and stuff how that works. It's a lot to take in. But like from what I've gathered, it's one of the hardest languages to learn. But
Yeah.
it's not
Well,
rocket science.
we're excited anyway to get over and get a wee look at the place, because so many good bands are coming from Finland, and we're just blown away. So, and I think as well, the Irish and the Finns, there's a lot in common there. With partying, drinking, and bad weather.
Yeah. I was in London last year, and it was my first time in London. It was the first time on an airplane, and that was fucking easy rain.
Hate airplanes.
I remember we were in central London. My girlfriend went out she carried on shopping. I was feeling a bit overwhelmed, so we stopped in a pub, and it was the first drink that I had in London, and I just remember sitting there, and there was this one like Irish chap sat like next to me, and we started talking, and especially about like the drinking culture and everything. It's quite wild. It's quite similar. I would really, really, really love to visit Ireland.
Ah, cool. Well, you definitely have to come over sometime for sure. And look, we want to get back in here because I could talk. I really do talk a lot. And I'd like to get back to your newest released song, which was released earlier this year, which is Darker. Yep. Again, awesome song, and loved the video to it as well. It's another banger. And I was just wondering, again, from your perspective, the song's origins, how did you come up with this one? Because it is such a it's another addicting song that I just have to have on repeat. I don't know how you do it, but you keep doing it. But yeah, just a wee bit of an origin behind it.
It's a lot of an older song. It was like one of the first ones that I wrote, like for the band, I think, somewhere around there, and it's gone through like quite many iterations. I think that was like the fifth sort of like arrangement of it that we've had, and it was like, I don't think there's like a big story behind it. It's more of like it's the theme, and that's one of the songs that we just wanted to make something fast and something catchy, more so than like crying in the booth and writing lyrics with skulls and candles and a fucking quilted pen, But it was a good one, and it had this vibe when we were mixing it. I remember the Mauri, the mixer, he just said, you know what? When you think about it, it seems like a bit of a slower drum and bass song. I was like, yeah, I was kind of thinking about that as well. And it was super cool. It was the first one that was actually also mastered at Abbey Road by a lovely guy called Stefan Brennan. Yeah, he's super talented, and it was like first time working together, so it went super well. I visited him at the studio last year when we were in London, so it was super cool.
That's really cool. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And the other thing that I want to ask you is, like, my son, he's starting in a band, and we're all like into musicians and stuff here, and from like the perspective of the modern era, as being in a band, getting to your level, you guys are literally about to explode, and yeah, and just because the younger bands starting out, I think with the modern era, with social media, streaming, all the things involved now with trying to get a song from in here to the fan, The process involved, there's a lot to it, and I feel like it can be maybe a bit overwhelming to the the young bands starting out. So is there a process that you have that you've kind of gotten used to now that you feel it just works real easily, and maybe offer a bit of hope and inspiration to these kids who are starting out so that they're not overwhelmed, that it can still be done and achieved and get to your level,
Yeah. Well, our process is a bit, I don't know. Well, it's a bit different in a way, because I've worked I was beginning to work as a producer and doing a lot of that stuff before, like mixing and mastering before I sort of settled down and made the decision that I've always written songs, so why should I write them for someone else when I could just do it for me? And I wanted to try my hand at that. And, I'm still young, so I can I can go back to making records when I'm 40 and keep doing that for the remainder of my time here. What our process is like is I like to work alone a lot in the beginning. I do a demo. I usually play a lot of the stuff, and then I send these like 30-minute, like 1-minute clips, like 30-second, 1-minute clips to the guys, and then there's something that stands out and that everybody gets excited about, and then I keep working on that, and at some point the guys like come in. So we're very self-sufficient in that way, and even with the music videos and everything, I think the majority of them I've directed, and I've edited a few as well. I think Danger was one that it was the first music video that I've ever edited in my life. I've never edited video before that. And it was the first time I ever even like directed anything. And sort of like what I'm like trying to say is you can learn how to do stuff by yourself. And you don't need a lot of money, and you don't need a lot of people. Like the music videos, even then, they've cost us like zero, basically nothing. It's a lot of, asking a few favors from a few people, and if you can't get a permit, then you just do it anyway. And
rock and roll, love it.
Yeah, and with technology and everything, it's becoming easier and easier to do stuff by yourself and start out that way. So I think it would be a very good idea that someone in the band knows how to work, well, not a soundboard, but a laptop.
Oh.
So, and that's something that you can learn to do. And there's a lot of resources online where you can get started out. And even if you don't end up doing the whole thing yourself forever, which I hope you're not, because it's a lot of work, is that when you get to a studio and you work with quote unquote professionals or people that have been doing it like longer than you, then you already sort of speak the same language, and you know what you want and you know what you like and what you don't like. It's not rocket science. It can be daunting, but you learned how to play an instrument and you're learning all of the things like that goes along with it, being in a band, booking shows, how to like the process from learning to play like Paranoid up to the fact that you're playing like a stadium one day. There's a lot of things in between, and you're going to learn a lot of stuff, and you're gonna fuck up quite many times, and that's all okay. It's all part of the process. And it's just, if you really, 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 really want to do it, then just do it. You're gonna find a way. And it's easier now than it's ever been, even though it looks a bit grim, but it's not that grim. It's just a bit different. It used to be grim in the 70s as well. Not that I've been there.
Great advice. Is there a part in the process as well that you have found like a love for that you didn't even realize that you were good at, or like just discovered, wow, this is awesome, I love doing this?
I think it's the music videos, to be honest. That was something that I've never done that before in my entire life. I didn't even use like Windows Movie Maker or anything like that before. And then suddenly I was cutting a music video that I, thought of the whole thing. And it was I find it really fascinating, and it went from like watching like reference videos to sort of think like, oh wow, how was that done, to like being able to like with Gothic, who was a guy who always films, and you know he does the editing and everything most of the time, and he's super talented and he's a very, very good guy. So it's been like I think a year or a year and a half, and now we can just like where the conversation began of like, oh, maybe we could have some lights. We've gone into the fact of like, oh, what kind of lenses we should use and stuff like that. It's something that is really, really interesting to me. And you have this whole thing of like, is that I think of, I listen to things in a visual way. It sounds dumb, but like I get images, and you get to bring that like sort of fantasy to life in a way. And I think that's super cool, because making our own music and music videos and stuff like that is like you have this your little own universe, like a snow globe that you get to dictate everything in. Sounds like I'm a control freak, but I'm not. It's just, you know, it's my safe place.
I love that. That's a cool way to look at it. And when you say that you're a visual thinker, I'm the same, because when people talk to me and like I'm like kind of looking up somewhere and they're like, what are you looking at? And it's like, no, I'm seeing what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's like a mild to extreme form, like synesthesia.
Yeah. I was actually wondering as well, have you guys played outside of Finland yet, or only just within Finland so far?
Only just within Finland. We haven't really had any good excuse yet to leave, but we're working on that. And especially next year, we'd like to go.
Belfast.
You know, yeah, I would love to, and that's the thing. We're trying to get some connections, because we also want to do it right when we get out. So it's not just like we're playing in a pub somewhere where nobody knows and nobody cares. So, yeah.
What would be your dream venue? Is there one that you would absolutely love to get to?
Realistic or unrealistic?
Unrealistic, just pure dream.
Tokyo Dome, for sure. Like, no question. Tokyo Dome, with everybody with like fucking like light sticks. That's like done into the whole thing. It's like a 4-hour show with 4 costume changes. And
awesome.
Like all of that. I'm a big K-pop fan, so that's the kind of like things I want to be doing in the future. I'm going to dance lessons right now. I'm not even kidding.
Amazing. And what about a realistic one then as well? Just out of interest.
For the near future, probably Tallest. Just like one of those things in Finland. It's not a big venue, so to speak. It's like the capacity is like, I think, max like 700, excluding the list. But it's one of those. It has a lot of history in Finland, and it's a very, very important venue. And it's one of those places like when you've played there, you know, you've played a place. You're really something. So that's something that would be cool. I mean, we played downstairs of it. There's this club called Semifinal, which is also I think it's a play on words, because it's the semifinals before you get to the main stage. So.
Right. Okay. Awesome. So just like as well, I wanted to ask, again, this is another one that I'm thinking and being aware of for younger bands starting out. With the level of success that you guys are getting to now, obviously it's going to bring some haters, trolls, nasty people, right? Because like that happens no matter what. Even me putting myself out in my social medias, they come, they try to bring you down. But I was wondering, do you guys have a certain way of dealing with it in yourself particularly? Like, do you make a song out of it and that's a big fuck you to them? Or, does it even bother you anymore? You know, it's expected nowadays. And is there anything like that's been really bad in particular that you could just advise to these young ones starting out? Like, this is going to happen and this is how you deal with it.
I just wouldn't read it. Like how I've dealt with it is the fact that I just like Alexi, our bass player, he does like all about like band social media. I'm not a very social media-y person. I mean, of course, like I do scroll Instagram and TikTok and fucking whatever, like all of the time. But I look at cute cat pictures and cheek our stuff, and then I send them to my friends and my girlfriend. And that's my use of like social media. And I figured it out quite early on that it would do a number on my brain for sure to read everything and be there. What I like hope to get on the level is like people print out only the good comments and I get it on a desk and I read them. I'm like, oh well, that's cool. But it's just, if you feel like you can't handle it, then most likely someone in the band has a thick skin and they can just read it and just let that happen. But then again, there's going to be people that are not very nice to you, and it's also not only going to happen online. It might happen in person as well. But the dickheads, and you shouldn't mind them. This isn't a nice way to say it.
I know exactly, and they are.
But like, people don't have to like. No, everybody has to like you, because you don't like everyone either. So and you should try and be civil about it. That's the thing. If someone is being a dickhead, then just don't engage. But there's going to be a lot of people who are very, very nice to you as well. So try and focus on that instead of them.
Always look on the bright side. The nicer
Absolutely.
people. Stick to the positivity.
Work hard and be nice to people. That's my motto.
I'm going to just do a wee random question here as well before we finish up. And it's just basically, if we were in an alternative universe and there was no music, it did not exist. That would not be a very nice universe, I know. But is there anything else that you would be passionately into then, do you think?
Fuck, I think movies would be out of the question as well. They're very boring without music.
It would be a horrible world without music.
Yeah, I think a cafe. I'd own a cafe. I want to run a cafe.
Nice.
That would be something cool. Yeah, I love coffee so much.
Me too.
It's just like I've gone like way into it. Like one of like my morning routine used to be, before we got an espresso machine, I had a Hario V60 and used to do like the pour over thing with a counter and like a counting seconds, and I had like a little weight thing that I could like get it like really precise. So I'm a very neurotic person. I just found that if I do, I can just pour all of that sort of like tedious energy into that as the first thing in the morning. It makes me feel a bit better. Then it has more caffeine than espresso, so when I switch to espresso, I feel a bit better.
Wow, that would help. No worries. And look, just so we finish up here, is there anything that you are working on or that is coming? So shows, albums, things like that?
For shows, we're playing Tuska Festival, and I think for 4 weeks. It's the 29th of next month. We'll be there on Sunday. I forget the time, but I think it was around 8. And if you're around, please come see us. And we have a release show 5th, like 0509. That's when we have the release show. We're also going to be releasing our second EP called Vantages II in Roman numerals. And I'm really excited about that as well. And then let's see what the future holds. We're going to be hitting the studio right after that EP as well and get to making new things.
I'm excited to hear what's coming next. Really excited. And look, thank you so much, Tim, for being here today and doing the chat with me. It was awesome.